Here's what I did when an employee didn't show up for work. One evening, a car hop didn't show up for work. Well, actually, that happened a lot of evenings. And I called, but she wouldn't answer the phone. Now, this was a Friday evening, and if you're familiar with the restaurant business, you know that that is the worst because one, you can't get anyone to come in the last minute on a weekend, and two, Friday is your busiest day of the week. So that left us shorthanded, and all night long the employees were getting frustrated, customers were getting frustrated, and every time we had a rush and things started to go bad, I got more and more angry. A lot of restaurant people I know have a very strict policy. No call, no show, no job, especially on a weekend. I mean, not coming to work, she's probably out partying with friends, maybe she got a date, whatever it was. If it was more important than coming to work, she must not need this job very bad. So the next morning, I'm back up at the Sonic, really tired, because I was up here late last night working really hard because we were shorthanded. I was busy taking the young lady's name off the schedule for the entire next week when I get a phone call. It was Jenny. And she sounded rough. Of course she sounded rough. She was out partying all night where the rest of us were up here getting slammed all night with customers. Oh, hello, Jenny. Yeah, I was just thinking about you.
Oh, no.
But even though I was still super upset, I took the time, for some reason, was able to slow down and do the one thing that I always tell everyone else to do. Asked why. Why didn't you come in to work last night, Jenny? And that's when she said, and I'll never forget this. She said, I couldn't come to work last night because my boyfriend went crazy yesterday and he held me and my daughter in the apartment all night long at gunpoint and wouldn't let us leave. And then she started to cry. It kind of changes your perspective, doesn't it? I mean, it sure changed mine. I went from being super mad to being super worried. Oh my gosh, what in the world happened? Are you okay? Now, what would you say in that situation? Would you say, well, no call, no show, no job, honey? I certainly hope not. I didn't. I gave her some time to get recuperated, to sort some things out, and when she was ready, come back to work. Now, don't leave now, because if you do, you're going to miss the lesson I learned that helped me go from managing one drive-in to being a partner in owning 38 restaurants. So 2 things the lesson is, and 2 things the lesson is not. I'm not saying to be a pushover. I know a lot of you are going to be watching this video saying, man, this guy's such a pushover. He's an idiot. Obviously, she was lying to him. Well, I tell you, anytime you're in a tough situation, I always act as though the employee is telling the truth. Hey, you can build a lot of goodwill and trust when you treat that person with some respect and kindness. And hey, in a small business, especially a restaurant, people talk. If she's lying about something big like that, I guarantee you it'll get back around to me pretty soon. And if that happens, I'll deal with it at that time. Number 2, I'm also not saying that it's okay for a person not to show up to work. Hey, that is totally unacceptable behavior most of the time. And it needs to be addressed quickly with training, discipline, and sometimes you just have to say,
you're fired.
But firing somebody is always a last resort for me. It is so expensive and time consuming to find somebody, get them on board, get them up to speed and training, when actually sometimes a nice stern talking to and some discipline like a suspension can save that employee. So let me go on a little rant right here. Suspending people can be a very powerful disciplinary tool. I tell you, when somebody really messed up, most of the time, instead of firing them, I would say, hey, why don't you take this week off? Or I would say, why don't you take 2 weeks off? At the end of those 2 weeks, if you really want to work here, come back and let's talk about putting you back on the schedule. Hey, and while you're off, why don't you look around and see maybe there's another job, a place that you would rather be? Well, when they do come back, what they find is, hey, it's hard to find another job. 2, it's really pretty good working here. They find out that there are consequences for their actions, and we have a better relationship when they come back. What I see a lot of managers do is they get angry and they fire somebody quickly. Well, 2 weeks later, when they get desperate, they remember that person knows how to do the job already. I'll just hire them back. And what everyone realizes is when you get fired, it's no big deal. You'll just come back when they get desperate. You become a rotating door of undisciplined, bad behavior. And the people that are really good, they just get frustrated that these people keep getting fired and coming back. So don't fall into that trap. Always, if you're going to fire somebody, fire them for good. But if you can save them, hey, a little bit of discipline, 2 week suspension really worked well for me. back to the story. So the lesson is, number one, be very careful with absolutes. If you say no call, no show, no job, you might end up losing one of your best employees over something completely out of their control. Lesson number two, always ask why. We never know what a person is really going through. And for some reason, it's human nature to always assume the worst. But when we take the time to ask why, that gives us the opportunity to build a relationship with that person and deepen that trust. Unless we have to fire them. And sometimes that happens. Now, if a person does show up for work, but they're late, I tell you what I would do. I would